Hey everybody, I hope you're all doing well today. My morning's gone pretty good and the weather is still nice, so that always makes me feel happy. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started on programming, I think. Everything just loaded up just in time. Alright, so we're pretty much completely done with the toon shader. We're going to wait on a little bit, or wait to do some of the stuff. We have... Like I would like to support shadow fading if it ever becomes a thing, but I don't think it's really necessary to do right now. And then also this specular versus gamma, and also something similar for HDR. I'm not sure if it's worth dealing with now. We might want to wait until our until optimization time. I'm just gonna switch it over to linear and see if any of the shaders break completely. Okay, so stuff got darker, but the blending isn't ugly. Alright, and is this deferred? Okay, it is. Alright, so it's not really that bad. I'll switch back to gamma. Oh, it's not gonna have to do anything? I thought I'd have to re-import. Okay, well that's cool. Yeah, so no issues there. I mean, we can always look into it more, but I know that the shader doesn't work that well if you turn off HDR, and I think that's just in deferred mode. So yeah, I'll need to look into that. I'm a little surprised because I thought that, I don't really know why it's completely white, but we have this Unity HDR on and that takes care of this, so I thought that that would be all I'd need to do, but maybe it would work when I press play. Let's see. Nope, still white. Oh well. I'll look into that later as well. So let's make a little note. Not really part of the roadmap. Alt. Shaders. HDR, or let's deferred mode does not work with HDR off. We'll look into that later. But what I really wanted to do today is tie in. Well, yeah, we want to tie it into the modding system, but first I want to update the terrain shader to work with this new toon shader. And so I think we can finally go back into the normal play scene. And we'll need to rebuild the asset bundle so that all the models use the new toon shader. I guess I could have just gone from here and then applied it. Oh yeah, here's the mesh. There, I have this egg dono material. Okay, so all I have to do is change this to use my own toon shader, which is a TLT toon. And when so obviously now it doesn't work in, okay. So what I need to do is add that new um, object that just applies to shader global variables. I think I'll just copy the component and then I'll add it to a new object in here. Let's see, shader setup. Right, and so now this is all ready to go. And yeah, I'm gonna let mods be able to set all these, so we don't have to worry about that for now. I wish there's got to be some way to get this to run in the editor. I thought that, yeah, I have this execute in edit mode, but it doesn't seem to do the awake. So maybe I should change this to start and then it would work. Nope, it still doesn't work. Okay, so it looks like execute, it would only do this if I had an update. I'd really like... Oh, I can't think of a way to not have it buggy. Alright, well, I'll just live with it for now. Okay, so it's still dark. Why, does this light not apply to it or something? It has the right shader, I think. Egg down a map. Well, I can go ahead and apply that, but that doesn't fix anything. Oh, that was disabled. I must have pressed that by accident. Okay, unfortunately that was not the problem. Okay, let's just change this back to how it was before. And that doesn't even work, so I'll just, in case that was causing an issue. Is it being like completely occluded by shadows or something, I wonder? Let's move it out of the terrain. Into the scene. No, I don't think it has anything to do with that. Maybe I can look in the frame debugger. Let's turn off the other monster models, and I think I'll just turn off the terrain because they have a different shader, and so now the frame debugger should only have our Dino mesh. Oh, this is post-processing. It's doing bloom. Okay, that's the interface. If I switch this to deferred, does that? Doesn't change anything. So this is where it should be drawing the mesh, but for some reason it's not. And the camera is set to culling mask of everything, so it's not like it's ignoring a certain thing. The post-processing interfering. Well, it's obviously still being rendered, but it's not getting lighting for some reason. Okay, so there we go. Render deferred. It's doing with the depth, but where is... Okay, here's the deferred lighting. Shadows. Yeah, so it's still getting light from there. And this rendering forward on top of the deferred. But directional shadow screen, Unity HDR on. Yeah, so the two deferred lights. Okay, I wasn't expecting to have this issue. That's a shadow caster. The tune shader. Okay, deferred pass. I don't see any problems. Alright, let's, oh. There is a light, though. It's not like... Oh, I have... Okay. I still have this enabled. Is it because of the... Should it be using the different... ramp? Well, I mean, it shouldn't still be black because of it. Oh, is it because of this intensity? It's 0.3. Yeah, that's different. And then, yeah, that was it. Okay. Yeah, the way the intensity works is different. Yeah, so I want... Yeah, this one. Yeah, and so the high intensity looks pretty bad with the default surface shaders, but not with our tune lighting, because we're... Although, this is like a little over exposed. Doesn't look as good as in the other scene. I don't really know why. Yeah, so we have real time 1-1. But it's not. It's the same. I have full strength. I might just copy this light over. Maybe I messed with something in this lighting tab. I don't have these. Okay, let's take a look now that it's actually sort of showing. But it's like the albedo is getting like really overexposed because you can see for some reason it looks better with the specular, which is right here, and then the albedo is getting like super added. It's like multiplied by something. So let's look back here in the frame debugger. Actually, I'll turn off all those objects, and I think I'll turn off the terrain too. That's weird. Oh, probably because shadows are different. I don't know. Alright, so this is rendering the geometry, we know. So the albedo looks fine. Specular, normals. Yeah, so this is the ambient lighting. So nothing weird so far. Okay, and then there it's doing the light. Alright, so what have I messed up here? Deferred lights. Well, I wonder, does this still happen in forward lighting? Okay, so it's not, yeah, it's something in the common lighting functions. Is it this emissive maybe? Let me turn that off. No. So it's like the specular is getting, I don't think that it could get too large. Oh yeah, here's the tune ramp. Okay, so the specular ramp, is that how it's supposed to look? Yeah, that's normal. I think the specular's nothing wrong with that, it's the light ramp. Okay, it doesn't actually show anything. The control click to show a preview, but nothing's there. Alright, so how can I try to debug this? Is it the light color? Well, the other one was pretty bright too. Yeah, this the light takes over all the albedo for some reason. But the light color is not ever added to the albedo, is it? So we just take this. It's not highlighting. So all we do is just, oh, we do add the light color. I think, well, I want to. I think I do. Let's see. Is the light color like greater than 1 for some reason? That will test, this will test for that. No, it still is adding too much to the albedo. So it's not that issue. What I can think of is that specular lerp is for some reason less than 1 or negative. So when we subtract it by 1, it just inflates this value by a lot. Okay, so let's just add a saturate here, maybe. Okay, that did a little bit, but still too strong. I guess if specular strength is super large, the specular lerp. I think specular strength is supposed to always be between 0 and 1. Let's see, is the egg dino material, maybe this strength is, yeah, so it's a specular strength, but I don't know why that would affect the albedo. Oh. Oh, I see. That's the specular offset. Okay, I was looking at this the wrong way. This is actually the specular highlight that's really huge. And that part in the middle was actually the ring. Okay, so that was just because we had some bad values still left in there. Okay. Okay, well, we figured that out. That was a bit of a silly thing to spend so much time on, but oh well. Yeah, so now it looks fine. Well, the toon shader version looks fine. The surface shader version is too bright now, but that's to be expected. It does look a little different than in the other scene, but I think that's just because this light has a different color. Alright, so what I want to do now, let's rebuild the asset bundles, and while that's working, we'll think about combining the toon shader with the terrain shader. So right now, the terrain shader is a surface shader, and we have to change that because if I want to get the toon shading in it, I can't use the surface shader because it won't work in deferred mode. So, terrain color. So the main difference is we have this get terrain color that defines the albedo. So it'd be nice if if I could reuse all the code in here, but then just have a different get albedo function. I think, yeah, that's the only difference I can think of. Well, actually, there might be some other differences, like the get specular info, because the terrain won't have a specular texture. It would have values sent to us through the mesh itself. So really what I want to use is this create light and the ambient lighting function. And I guess this function. But I don't know, it might... I mean, this function itself is pretty simple. This light function is not. So I should probably try to combine as much as I can. But like for the terrain, we'll have text chord 1 will be filled with terrain texture values, and then we also have another one that would have like the specular information when we get to that point. So it can't share this, and yeah, this will be different as well. So let's see. Maybe the best thing to do would be just to make the terrain shader and see what I have to change. And then from there, I can see what I can combine. Oh, 1 second. All right, thank you for that. So I want to make, I guess, terrain material lighting. .cg include, and I'll just copy this whole file for now. I'll just call this tune terrain. All right, so another difference. Let's just close all but this for now, and I'll look in the terrain shader. Yeah, so the input, I also have this float 3 terrain. Is text chord 1, and then I'll have a float 3 specular info is text chord 2. And we'll get that from the actual mesh information, and then P2F will add, still need all these, but then I'll also add float 3 terrain in text chord 4 and float 3 specular info in text chord 5. Actually, this is a float 4 because we use the alpha for emissive strength, so. I'm not going to do the specular info yet because the specular info might actually be tied into the terrain texture. Like we'll have another terrain array of specular info. I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, so the fragment output is the same. So it'd be nice if we could reuse this with the tune, not outlines, the material lighting. Okay, and then we'll have main texture, no color. Let's just, actually I think the only thing we'll have is just the main texture, and I guess, oh no, we won't even have that because we'd have the terrain array, actually. And the terrain stretch value. Okay, I do let you multiply by a color, but there's no reason for that. This declares the texture array. Okay, so a vertex function is really the same. We just pass in the position, the UV, normal, world position, shadow, and then I'll also pass through the terrain value. So O dot terrain is V dot terrain. The terrain doesn't actually use a UV, does it? Okay, so I don't need this text chord 0. But I think I still... Okay, let's actually look in the graphics. The UX, I mean. Mesh editor. Or mesh creator, I should say. So yeah, we set the second set of UVs, which is text chord 1, to the terrain indexes, and we don't actually use the first set because we might want to actually have UVs at some point. I don't think I need to do that anymore because we're not going to have UVs. Do I? I guess I do use the vertex colors though. What is this for? I forget what this mid color. Oh, is this how we? Yeah, that's how we decide what value in the of the terrain to use. Okay, so I do need to get that. So let's see. That would be yeah, so this is now UV Z or text chord 0, and then we'll have float 3. Let's call it terrain choice is color. And I don't know. I guess blend would be better. Terrain blend. So now we need to copy this through here as well. We don't need the UV, so I can just put the terrain in here. The normal and the world position and float 3 terrain blend. I'll put in text chord 4. And you can have 8 text coordinates, and you can even have, I think, up to 9 or actually maybe even 12 if you support shader. What's it called? Yeah, shader target 4 or shader model 4. But we don't need that many, so we're good. Okay, so yeah, no UV. So just position, normal, world position, and terrain we just pass through. And terrain blend we also just pass through. That's interesting. Oh no, I'm overthinking it. Okay, I was wondering when we pass the terrain, is it going to blend the terrain indexes together? But no, because they'll be the same for each vertex, so it's okay. So the get albedo, this is where we'll use this get terrain color. So this is actually V2F, I, and then the index. Terrain stretch, and it'd be the I dot terrain. Okay, and here we sample the texture array. And then we just multiply that by the color, which is kind of how we lerp with this certain terrain. But I call this terrain blend now. So the get albedo is, yeah, we just add those together. All right, and the specular info, I don't know how I'm going to implement this yet, so I'm just going to return. Oh, actually I need to set everything to 1 as the default. Okay, so the create light, this is exactly the same between them, and I want to make sure that I support. Although the VTF is different, so I don't know, will this cause a problem? What do I need out of this eye? The world position is what it looks like. Oh, the thing is I have to... Okay, yeah, so this needs to... I have to be able to pass this to the Unity light attenuation because it needs things named a certain way. Well, this might still work because the VTF is compiled. Yeah, the way that the shader compiler works is that it'll be compiled to match this specific VTF, even though we're going to be using this create light with 2 different versions, or in 2 different shaders. The ambient lighting I definitely want to be the same as well. And then this can be the same. Okay, so let's see. If I have let's make it I don't know, tune common material, or like tune material lighting, or I call it terrain. Yeah, the names of these are probably could have been thought out better when I was doing them, but this is TLT tune common material. Okay, so I guess I can include this in here, but I don't need to include it in the individual files anymore. Or maybe I do, because yeah, this get albedo and get specular has to be defined before we include the tune common material, because otherwise I think these functions won't compile correctly. Anyway, so here we won't have either of these structures, but we will have this structure, and we won't have any of those. The vertex functions are different, and the get specular and specular info are different. It's mostly this light that we want to have in common, and this function. Alright, so down here, I'll delete these. And then I'll call include tune common material CG include. I don't need this fragment output. So I don't know if I need any of these includes anymore, actually. Well, before I go any further, let's see if that causes any errors. Well, it probably won't. Oh yeah, we were doing the asset bundles. That's fine. It won't cause any errors right now because nothing actually includes this terrain material lighting yet. So I need to go into the terrain shader. And I've gotten everything out of here that I need. So I can just copy the toon shader pretty much. Just the sub shader part. And all this will be basically the same, except instead of using the toon material lighting, we'll use the terrain material lighting. Okay, that's old. So, terrain material lighting. Okay, so now that I have that unrecognized identifier or shadow chords at terrain material lighting. Okay, so we do need to include at least some of the stuff. The Unity includes probably. Not sure which one includes the shadow chords. Let's see. Alright, so I need to have both of them. Oh, I accidentally left one old variable. Right index out of bounds. What? It's not even running yet. Oh, the float 2 terrain. Yeah, this should be float 3 terrain. I think I left that over when that used to be the UV. The normal. It'd just be a float 3 actually. Okay, so no issues anymore. Don't need this metallic or glossiness or color. Alright, so now the terrain shader works, and I'm going to update the toon material to just include the common material now. So we don't need this. Don't need... Okay, we need that. We don't need the terrain. Oh yeah, that's create light or the fragment output. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I left this as the lighting. It should be toon, common, material. Okay, and so if I play now, yeah, so it's like normal. Let's go ahead and, while I'm thinking about it. Oh, I didn't need to do that. I meant to open an explorer. Okay, I'll go ahead and update the asset bundles since we built them. And now the other toon dinos that are spawned from mods will also have the new good material. Or yeah, I guess well, they're both good, but the new better material. And okay, so now that looks much better. And now, yeah, the terrain is a little messed up, but at least it's using, I don't know what's going on with that right now actually. Let's, where do I have the terrain material? Okay, so it should be working. Actually, it looks like it's the light problem again, so I think that the specular size is too big. And one way we can find out is going into the where is it? The frame debugger. Yeah, so what I want to see is, yeah, so this is the albedo. And then, okay, yeah, so that's the issue, is the specular size is just too big. So let's actually add sliders for all the specular size and offset to the terrain. We might as well. And just steal them from here. Okay, the default should always be 1 actually, so. I think I'll set this to 1/2 actually, because the specular size is it's gigantic at 1. Okay, so now to take care of this, we can just return float for spec strength, specular size, specular. Oh, I forgot the underscore at the beginning. Offset, and then 1 for the emissive. Okay, so let's look how that looks. We might actually want the specular size to be 0 for terrain right now, because I mean dirt doesn't have any shininess to it. It actually looks kind of strange. I think it's because the normals aren't blending right now. Because when I originally made the terrain, I thought that I wanted to go with a low poly look, but the toon shading actually looks a lot better if the models are smoothed. We can actually see a difference with Toon Dino. Yeah, this is what I want. So if we just don't calculate or set this to 0 so that it won't smooth the normals, and they'll always be facing along the triangles. So yeah, now we can see, I mean, it still doesn't look that bad. Maybe we could go with it, but you just won't get smooth specular highlights. Excuse me. If we play the game, you can actually see the Toon Dinos back to back. I mean, there's they both have their charm. But yeah, I think this low poly doesn't look that good with shadows. You get more often this weirdness here. And the shadow lines don't follow the lines of the faces. So I think if you wanted to go with a look like this, you wouldn't use shadows. And also this look doesn't look like an action figure or a prop, which is, again, the art style I'm trying to go for. So I think, yeah, these hard face faces just don't fit. Alright. But in general, the terrain system, or the terrain shader, works fine. I just need to mess with the normals, I think. Yeah, you can see a... Yeah, here you can see a big difference because of the rim lighting, I think. But a lot of times now it looks a little flat. But I think that's okay because that's the cell shading style. Okay, so how would I, if I wanted to smooth the normals out? Guess we just have to go back into the terrain mesh editor and compute it ourselves. There's this, kind of looks cool. So terrain mesh material. Specular strength, size. That just kind of makes it more sensitive, which triangles get the shading. I think it could, like the low poly look does look kind of nice if you mess with it. Like I said, it just doesn't really fit the artistic vision for this particular game. Which is a little unfortunate because if it did, I could just leave the terrain how it is, but now I need to go back and deal with that's kind of funny. Deal with what am I trying to say? Deal with the normal smoothing manually. Alright, so I guess do we want to do that now or put it off? So we updated the terrain shader. I need to tie all this stuff into the modding system. I guess we should update it now because it's going to be hard to finalize Egg Dino if he has like no backdrop. Although I'm pretty happy with him. I think I still would like to maybe edit the shell color slightly, but... And then when he jumps, there is a little weird thing when he jumps. Mostly with his tail. Yeah, because his tail, like, ignores the jumping velocity. Really, when he jumps, his tail should, like, move backwards instead of wagging back and forth. So I need to add some better animations for the tail. That's really all I want to change for him. Let's try and do the terrain smoothing. I just kind of feel like it. We have about an hour, so we should be able to get a good chunk into it. Okay, so we're done with shaders for now, and so now I need to keep track of also the normals. So private vector 3 normals, and yeah, right now we just recalculate the normals, which basically makes them point out from the triangle faces. Can I just call set? Oh, I think we tried to use this before, but it throws an error if they don't all match, so... Okay, so I guess I need to add another value to this add triangle. So yeah, there's a couple. I'm trying to figure out how I want to actually do the normals. Like, should I... The thing is that each triangle doesn't know what its neighbors are. So the best way might be to figure out the normals while we're creating the triangles. Yeah, so this is just like the flat part of a hexagon. And really the normals just depend on the bump map. So we'll need to take kind of like the slope of the bump by reading a few pixels in every direction and try and figure out the normal from that. Okay, so let's get bump height. I wonder if there's a better way to do this. 'Cause it's starting to get, like, this create triangle is starting to get a ton of calls. And I'm not really too concerned. Well, I was gonna say I'm not really too concerned about this taking too long to calculate. So I could have like another intermediate data type, but this still will need to run during playtime whenever a block is moved or changed prototype. Because I'm trying to think. Well, we don't really want the normal to be based on its neighbors anyway, because it'd be a little different than what the actual immediate value on the bump map is. Although I guess it wouldn't make much difference, I don't know. But I wonder if I could like create these triangles one point at a time, have like a point structure. And speaking about generation time, with the new Unity's new multi-threading system, we could just have this run on a separate thread and it would really make this whole system would be able to speed up a lot, because the way I've written it is every hexagon only, like we can generate these hexagons each independently, so they could have a bunch of different threads working on that, which would speed it up a whole lot. But yeah, and like we're gonna have to add a normal value to each of these. What is... Okay, yeah, there's... Oh yeah, this is like the 3 version lerp. Yeah, we will need to lerp between the different bump heights. It'd be nice if these bump position could also return the normal. Maybe that's the easiest way to do it. Okay, let me see. Another thing is that, yeah, the always has a color. And here the terrain is all in common, but I guess it's always in common. But so now the position and color are always linked, and so it'd be nice if maybe we had a structure that we could add the normal, blend, and position together into one thing. I think I will create that. Alright, so private structure. I guess I'll just call it a tri-point, because it's a triangle point. And it has a vector 3 position, vector 3 normal, and position normal and blend. And then I guess it also has a terrain, but oh no, the actual triangle needs to have the terrain in common. So if we had a triangle class, that's what adds. Really, the index is same as this. Hey Shane Creed, thanks for stopping by. Sorry, I was sucked into the programming. I didn't see your chat for a bit. Let's see. So I guess like now we could maybe start sharing some vertices, especially for like this hex fan ring, but maybe I can enable that but not actually do it yet because that's going to be a little bit difficult. So if I wanted to update this triangle, I guess I would just take 3 of these triangle points. Maybe if you supplied the terrain separately, I would go ahead and just use this terrain instead of the 3 points. And then if the index is set or is not set, then it will generate it. It's a new one. And so this will have try point A, B, C, and then public vector 3 for terrain, and then public, I guess that's it. So from that we could generate these lists. And that would be kind of nice because then we won't have to have all these different lists and I could just have a list of triangles. If I really wanted to, I keep on thinking this, but I don't know if it'd actually be faster. That when we have to deform the mesh at runtime, we could try to keep track of which triangles are associated with which hexagons and only delete and only remake the triangles for that specific hexagon, but we'd have to remake the entire mesh anyway, so I don't actually know if that'd be faster. And that'd be prone to a lot more bugs. Okay, so yeah, triangle, angles. Okay, so once we get down here, we just need to set this up, and it's going to be pretty simple because the vertices, there's always, well, actually we don't know that. I was going to say, if I start sharing vertices, then there won't be 3 per triangle. I guess I should keep a variable for that. Or maybe I don't really keep a variable and I just loop through every triangle to find the max value. Change out the vertex. But yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. I can just have this function to deal with that. So find number of vertexes or vertices. I was going to say we could kind of just loop backwards through the triangle list and get the vertex at the last point, but I don't think that's definitely going to be the maximum vertex count. So for, and well, I don't have to do that, I could just do it for each. And then for each, oh no, I can't do that because the triangle doesn't. Yeah, and here I don't want the tripoints to be an array because then it would have to generate memory every time I created this triangle structure. Alright, so triangle or max equals mathf max triangle a vertex. And so I do that for the other two. And then we just return max plus 1 because that's the number of vertices. I guess actually I should start at -1 in case there's 0 vertices. It's not really that much more difficult to keep track of this as we add triangles, but I don't know, this just seems less prone to bugs. And if we need to optimize it away, I can switch that other option. Okay, so the mesh vertices, let's make another function for this actually. Void set up mesh, and we'll just pass the mesh mesh value. And we'll clear the triangles after this. What's wrong with that? Oh, it's just because it's confused because I haven't fixed this syntax error. and so this will be vertices. Oh, no, it's because I misspelled mesh there. Okay. And then vector 3, blends is also, there's one for every vertice. And same with normals. Okay, and so the triangles is a little different. And for this, there's one for every triangle, or two for every triangle. So we do triangle count times 3. And this is just, if you remember from before, it tells Unity which indexes every vertex corresponds to in each triangle, so that way it can actually make the triangle faces. So now we just need to set this. We don't have to do 2array anymore. I guess I can do this, but we actually have to fill up these arrays. Oh, that was weird. Spelled that wrong. Missing an I still. And now this is blends and normals. Oh, I did forget the terrain indexes. Spelled it both ways there. And these are also vector 3. And there's one per vertex too, even though every vertex in a triangle has the same one. Oops. Oh, it actually would have to be a list. I guess it doesn't matter. It kind of bothers me that I can't use an array for each, but oh well. Oh yeah, and this should be a vector 4 since it's... Actually, it should just be a color. Okay. But before we actually set these values, we need to fill out all the data in them. Okay, so v index is... Oh, we should make another function for this actually. Private void fill triangle point. Now I'm going to need to pass all these variables. Not the triangle indexes, I guess. Okay, I'm just trying to think about how I want to deal with this. So first I need to have the try point. And vector 3 vertices vector, or no, color. Normals. Okay, we don't have to do the terrain, although I guess we will have to set it, so, but not from that triangle point. Oops, what am I doing? Triangle indexes. And then I'll actually need to have the triangle index because I don't know that right now. So vertices point dot vertex equals point dot position, and then we just do that for all these. Okay, so right now I don't store the blend as a color. I thought the music seemed to glitch out there for a bit. I think it makes kind of more sense to store it as a vertex or vector 3 instead of a color, and that makes the rest of the logic independent of how I actually decide to send this to the shader. So I think I will do it like this. So point blend y blend z, and then the alpha is just 1. And okay, so try indexes. We actually use the index that were passed. All right. So now I just need to call this for each point in the triangle. So triangle. Actually, let's pull it out. So triangle equals triangles t, and then the try index is t times 3. Okay, so we passed try A, and now the vertices, blends, normals, try indexes, and then try index. So now I gotta do that for the other 2 points, B and C, and then we actually increment this. All right, and I think that's about it. So if I update these functions to use this new storage and just set the normals always to point up, the terrain engine should still work, although the lighting will be off. But let's actually check. How I eventually want this to work is we'll actually pass the triangle point instead of all these values separately. Okay. So now I actually do need to keep track of the vertex index because I need to know it for these functions. Which I guess makes sense because how am I going to increment this unless I keep an index around? Okay, so I'll just... let's call this next vertex. I don't know. Num vertices. It's functionally the same, it just depends on how you think about it. So now I don't need to do this. Thankfully I didn't spend too much time on it. Okay, so I can change this for the triangles, but I guess that doesn't actually update this. So triangles, add new triangle, and I'll set A to a new triangle point. So position equals A, blend equals color A, normal. I'll just always set these two up for now. Oh, these are actually vector 3. Can I convert? That'd be nice. No. Okay, well, this is a little redundant right now, but so color A, R. Because I'm just going to be converting back. I always, for some reason, think it's red and then blue, but it's always red, green, blue. And then the vertex is num vertices plus 1. Or no, it's just num vertices. Okay, so in order to make this still work, I've got to be careful that I follow the order here. So triangle 1 has A, and then B, then C, then D. And then I gotta match this up. Okay, so that's A, B, C, and then A, C, D. Okay, so actually I need to do it like this. Oops. And do I... Now I'm trying to second guess if I want to store the vertex index in this. I think it'd be better not to, because that way I could just pass this point around to multiple triangles if I want the points to be in common. So how I should do it is public int index A, index B, and C. Okay, so now I don't actually have to deal with this, although I still will need the vertex index. All right, and then here, let's try indexes. Try dot index A is, oh wait, no, this is index plus 0. I'm just doing that so I can see what's going on. Okay. And then 1 and 2 is B and C. I really hope I don't mess any of this up, because I trying to find triangle winding errors is really difficult for me, as I'm sure any longtime viewers can remember. B and C. Okay, what am I missing? Oh yeah, I don't have to pass this anymore. Okay, and now back down to this. So again, the hope is that these functions will actually just take these triangle points as input instead of these positions and colors separately. Position is B, but for now I'll do it like this. And this should be color B. That way I won't have to go and update all the rest of the code just to test if my new mesh setup is working. Okay, so now we'll add a new triangle. A is try A, try B. If I spell right. Also, I forgot I have a D here as well, so I better deal with that. I don't know, does anything even use this function anymore? Oops. No. Okay, so I'm wasting a lot of time trying to update it. And I think that was left over from I used to actually have flat rectangles before we added subdivisions and everything. We can still use this. Okay, so now triangles, add new triangle. Okay, so this makes it a lot simpler because I know the indexes, we just add one to each. So try, oh, we actually only add one triangle, so. Okay, and so this is num vertices, and this is num vertices plus 1. Actually, well, I won't deal with that right now, but the whole thing is that if I want to share vertices, okay, so that's actually why I wanted to have the index in this try point in case we wanted to share vertexes. Okay, so I feel like all that editing I did is a waste of time now. Okay, so let's copy this and I'll just undo a bunch. Okay, so I had it right the first time. And we don't need this add quad, but I will leave it in case I ever do. I guess I'll delete that because it's not working. Okay, now we add back in that what I copied. And so yeah, right now the indexes are just automatically generated. I'll have to decide. Probably the easiest way to deal with this is that if I just want to add a new vertex, I would have a new function that would just give me, or increment the counter and give me a number index, another index. Alright, so yeah, don't need that anymore, except I do need to set the terrain. Okay, and it winds, yeah, ABC, so that's all taken care of. Oh yeah, and then I need to add vertices plus 3 to take into account the 3 I just created. Okay, so the game should look, well, it'll look worse now because the terrain mesh, all the normals point up, so the lighting will be very strange. But it should still generate at least. Yeah, so there's basically no lighting. Yeah, you can see it's lighting it as if it was flat because the normals always point upwards. And we can look in the frame debugger to get a really easy, or actually, can I just see the normal from here? No, I thought maybe you could. Okay, so yeah, we'll just go in the frame debugger because I can from there. The render texture 2 has the normal, and so yeah, it's all flat. So what I need to do is recalculate the normal based on the bump map. But I think first I'll update this code to use the new triangle points. Which will kind of be an undertaking, but I wonder at the same point if I should... Like this code, I think this class is going to keep getting bigger and bigger, so I think I might want to separate some of these functions out somewhere else. But I guess I'll wait until I've updated everything. Alright, so how do I want to deal with this? Some of these triangles... Yeah, we could share some of them, like the ones that are at the same position. I wonder if there's an easy way that I could cache these. We kind of do that. Oops, sorry, knocking that. Kind of do it in the collider mesh generator because we do share vertices. Like I can't share any vertice where the terrain changes. But I mean that's okay, but like anything that the terrain is the same could share a vertex. And everything on this create hex fan ring is only one vertex or one texture. Because yeah, the only thing that varies between these different triangles is their position, and the normal depends on the position, and the blend is always red, and the terrain is always the same. Okay, so the position only has to deal with this lerp, so it takes a near. The problem is, yeah, if we open back up that helper image I had, we can see it's just not easy to abstract all of the different possibilities. Where is it? I think it's in planning, actually. Yeah, so that was where the center is. Yeah, so yeah, right here. Because there's like two sets of triangles and we have to deal with them separately. There's ones that point inwards and ones that point outwards. Yeah, the 2 points on the outer edge. So I guess one thing I could do is figure out all the vertices for each that's the right word, each like I guess row as we move out from the fan, and each one just has one more than the previous. And then all I'd have to do is calculate a point for each of these, and then they could all share that. So let's see the number. Well, it's just the sum. formula or a sum of a sequence formula, which is, isn't it like n times n plus 1 divided by 2? I should look that up. Sum of sequence formula. Okay, it's giving me like really general answers here. I just want sum of sequential numbers. Yeah, it says n plus or n times n plus 1 divided by 2. So yeah, so I did remember correctly. I guess let me just make sure. So here, okay, so I need to know the number of vertices, which I guess we'll have to count by the rings. So that's kind of what I was trying to figure out. Okay, so it's 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, so n would be 4, so it's 4 times 5 divided by 2 is 10. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that works. So that means that n in this equation is just the number of rings, which we already have, I think. Okay, so we could get it from here. Oh yeah, but I think in my thing I'm counting this as 1, so that's actually 0, but... or it's the index number 0, so... So I guess at this point we would calculate all of the points and then we would pass it to this function. So int num rings is database metrics x rings, and so this is r greater than or equals. So I think this is set. Yeah, so it's this plus 1 because if I set it to 3, we generate 4 rings, because this rings is actually referring to like these spaces in between instead of the vertex rings. So we add 1, okay, and then num points is num rings times plus 1 divided by 2, and this is just the sum of sequence formula. Oh right, I don't want to turn it into a float. And so we'll make an array of triangle points. And so each one, you can see the value here. So we got the near, the far. This is like starting from each ring, so I won't have to use quite so many. I'm trying to, what would be the best way to deal with this? So we'll go through each ring and then I think I'll still use the same logic. Okay, so I won't add the points, but I'll just figure out the points. Actually, now that I'm looking at this math, I think hex rings doesn't... It should actually, this should be +2 because I think it refers to any extra rings that we add. So like this is hex rings equals 2 here, so we actually count 4. So I'll say count outer edge and center vertex as rings. Okay, so now I can just use that. Actually, I think it'll be different for the first one. So points 0 is the cell dot center point. Don't have the cell value, I guess. Oh, right. We have to make a triangle point. So new triangle point. Oh yeah, this is called a tri-point, not triangle point. And so the normal, again, I'll deal with actually adding normals later. And blend is just 1, 0, 0. Okay, so now I need to kind of copy this function except adapt it to only create the points right now. So create hex fan ring points. Okay, I still need the cell index. What's this corner? Okay, so it's a corner points. Yeah, so we will need that. We could share this center tri-point actually. So I'll go ahead and pass that through. They can actually share the points on the edges too. So maybe I should generate points for the entire hexagon. Which I don't think it would be that much more difficult than taking it as a wedge at a time. The wedge helps like doing the triangles, but okay, so unfortunately, so what would be the number of hexagon or the number of points in a hexagon ring? Well, it's this, except we need to subtract the points out and then multiply that by 6. Okay, well maybe, yeah, we don't count anything on this edge. So I guess we just do this. And then we'd count this triangle and then the same. And then we just add 1 for the center. That way we won't get any overlap. Okay. So num, well, the num rings will be the same. To count total vertices without overlapping, exclude center and I guess it doesn't matter, and I guess extreme edge by counting for 1 less ring. I don't know if this text makes sense. It makes more sense pictorially. Because when we're counting, we'll count these, but then we exclude the points that... I guess I'll make this different color. So exclude these. But they're counted the next for the next wedge. So basically we take this and multiply it by 6, and then we just add back the center. Okay, that gives points unique to one wedge. Let me see. This is equivalent to counting total points in a wedge with one less ring. Okay, and then we multiply by 6 and add the center back in. Okay, so int num per r, I don't, let's see, num points is num rings minus 1 times num rings divided by 2. Okay, let's say num in wedge. I feel like I need to comment this because this math is not going to make sense unless you actually see this picture. And then int num points is num in wedge times 6 plus 1. So I'm pretty confident in that math, because here we can see to count the unique vertices basically by excluding one edge is just counting the number of vertices and a wedge of one ring lower. And so we do that, and then we would also calculate this and that, and then we just add back in the center. Okay. Now I need to index each of these points, and that might be a bit more complicated. Oh gosh, that's huge. This is 0.0. Actually, I think I should work upwards first. Do I need to draw like an entire... entire hexagon matrix here? So we add one there, and then there's 2 here. I don't know if that matters much. I probably should at least... I'm going down here, but I think the indexes will actually go around this way and then clockwise, actually. Let's set these a different color to kind of illustrate again the way I'm counting them. Yeah, that looks good. And these are even darker. Oops. Okay, so anyway, Center is 0.0, and then we go to 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I really need to know the number. Or is this the way to go, or should I count it by wedge actually? So maybe do 0, 1, 2, 3. How do I order it? I think, yeah, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, because then we could know when each wedge starts. Okay, so 2. And then we'd start here next. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then this would be 10. So I guess in order to know the total per wedge, again we have the nasty problem of overlapping. How do I want to do this? I think we still do it like this, but yeah, so every wedge has the same pattern. We kind of need to go down like that. I don't like that at all. Okay, maybe the best way is to go by ring, actually. Oh, I'm running out of time. So if we go by ring, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we start here. I think that makes better. I think that will work better because the numbers are like symmetric or the same for every wedge, kind of. Because with this way, we'd have to have like edge cases. Like if you're the first wedge, then you count this the same. If you're not, then you have to subtract by a certain number. And the number would be different per ring, so yeah, that'd be really confusing. This way, it's kind of like you add one and then you modulo based on the number of points in the ring. So now we just gotta count the number of points in a ring, which I guess we did here, kind of. Hex fan. Okay, let's get rid of that. Okay, so the ring number. Okay, so 2 points on the outer edge. Oh, that counts the number of triangles in each. Well, in ring 0, there's obviously 1. Ring 2, 6. Ring 3, there's... Okay, well, it's kind of like this number times 6. Then we have to get rid of the extra, so then you subtract 6 for each corner case. So let's see if that works. So 3 times 6 is 18, minus 6 is 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That works. So I guess so ring times 6 minus 6 is the same as ring minus 1 times 6. Does that even work here? Because this is ring 1 minus 1 times 6 is 0. So that's pretty cool. Okay. So the number, let's do number of rings or points in ring R where R equals 0, or let's just say R is 0 indexed, meaning it starts with 0, equals R times 6. So for int R equals 0, R less than num rings, and then for int p equals 0, p less, okay, I guess num in ring we'll need to do num points in ring is, again, R times 6. I guess we have to add 1 because, yeah, because this is actually like the, or, wait, did I do that wrong? Because here it's 0 times 6, and then 1 times 6 is 6. So maybe this is just a little different. And 2 times 6 is 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so that's right. I guess just this one is a little different. So probably we'll start and R greater than 1. So we'll just do something a little different for 0.0. Oh, yeah. I don't need to delete that all the way. R times 6. All right, and then we just need to handle the 0 differently. So points 0 is new. I think I already did this down here, didn't I? I think I can delete that code. Okay. So now I kind of know what to do. I need to take this code out to here, no, to here, and just figure out the points for each ring. And then from there, when I create, I don't need to have 2 separate functions for this now. So here when we create the hex ring triangles, we'll just use the points that have already been created, and that way, yeah, we'll decrease the number of vertices because all these can actually be shared because there's no differences between them besides their position. Okay, so that should be a good optimization. And then, yeah, this is going to be fun when we have to do the margins. It's pretty crazy, but we'll get to that. But I think, yeah, even though we're kind of doing this just to get better control of the normals, I think we would have had to do it eventually whenever I wanted to revisit the terrain mesh and make it more complicated, because like I want to add water and ice and all kinds of different effects, so it's just too messy right now. I need to clean everything up, and yeah, doing this with a triangle point I think will help a lot in that regard. But anyway, I guess I better wrap things up and go get something to eat Thanks everybody for coming out and watching. I really appreciate it. Oh, and I'll be back tomorrow around noon Eastern, like always. Feel free to follow me here on Twitch or my Twitter to get notified. I also have a YouTube channel if you want to catch up on any past streams. I always upload stuff there. And a Discord channel if you'd like to chat with me throughout the day. I'd love to have you. And yeah, I guess that's it. I'll have links in chat and also video description if you're interested. And I hope to see you tomorrow. Have a great day and bye-bye.